and he absolutely said it. He said, I was tougher than her. They're very unhappy with her as a candidate. Let me tell you, they made a mistake, I think. I don't think they should. Maybe they shouldn't have left him. I don't know what they should have done. I don't care what they should have done. I'm just telling you, hopefully they're not going to be there long. They're destroying our country.
Yes.
He's the worst president in the history of our country. She's the worst vice president, and she's worse than him.
And you're the best.
Well, thank you. I love this guy. I like this. Where the hell did you find these people?
I just walked in the barbershop.
You know what? We're going to make it good. We're going to make the economy good. We're going to bring back companies. We're going to bring back jobs, and you're going to be happy.
So,
yes. And I love that you mentioned the American dream, because you know what? People don't mention it anymore. You want the American dream for your kids.
Well, the part of the question was federal taxes in itself.
What are you going to do for the
Oh,
federal
we're cutting
taxes?
taxes. So we're cutting taxes. She's raising taxes. You saw that.
I feel it.
She's raising taxes. We're cutting taxes. We're cutting them for small businesses too, which is you. Although this could be a big business with all this business I see. I don't know. But your boy's going to be paying. You're going to be paying much less tax because small business. Now, she wants to end the Trump tax cuts. The Trump tax cuts are great for small business. You know what they're also great for? When you pass away, you die, you want to leave your kids your business. We call it the death tax, but it's really the inheritance tax, but people call it the death tax. Your small businesses don't have to pay a death tax because of me. You want to leave, like a store like this, he already owns it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a store like this, you want to leave it to your kids. There's no tax to pay. They want to end that so that you have to pay tax. And what's happening is, like farms in particular, we have a farm, it doesn't make a lot of cash, but it's got value. They go out, they borrow money to pay the tax, they end up losing the farm. In, I think it's 82% of the cases, the parents leave the farm to the kid, or leave like a business, this is a good business, leave the business to the kids, and they end up losing it because they get, you know, the banks have to loan money and they end up losing it. There's no inheritance tax. I got that done.
But Mr. President, will there be, so you already passed tax cuts in the last.
They want to end them.
Will there be an additional
Yes.
tax cut?
Oh yeah, we're cutting them further, you saw that. Because we're using what's underground, we're using our wealth. Again, energy is so big. Also in terms of making money, these big companies, among the biggest are the energy companies. We have more oil and gas under our feet than any other country in the world, and we don't use it. We're going to start using it. You know, we have a place, Anwar, in Alaska. It's bigger than Saudi Arabia, they say. Whatever, it's as big, just about. Saudi Arabia is giant. This is giant. Ronald Reagan wanted to do it, Anwar, you know all about it. Everybody wanted to do it. They were unable to get it approved. They couldn't do it. Environmental, all the different things. I got it done. And it's harder to get it done today than it was 40 years ago, let me tell you. Environmentally, it's much more difficult. I got it done. They were ready to start. It's in Alaska. The whole thing, it was the biggest thing ever in Alaska. Biden comes in, he doesn't know he's alive. And he terminated that. He terminated that. That would have taken care of all of Asia. That one site, think of it, it's like having Saudi Arabia close to Asia. That would have taken care of Asia and plenty of other places. In the first week, they terminated it. I'll get it done immediately. I get it approved. I got it approved. It was approved by Congress too. So I now can get it approved very quickly. I'll get it done very fast, and we'll be doing it. We will be able to make a lot of money and pay down debt. We have to pay down debt. We're going to pay down debt. But the big thing that we're going to do is grow the country. If we grow, it's called growth. Growth in our country is going to make everybody much better off, including jobs, including everything. But think of that. So I worked my ass off to get that work done. I was so proud of it. Because Reagan couldn't do it, nobody could do it, and I got it done. And in 1 week, they canceled. Listen to this, Russia. They have a pipeline going all over Europe. I terminated it. I said, you can't build it. Biden comes in, he approved that pipeline, and our big pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline, which should be done, he terminated that. 48,000 jobs, and more importantly than even the jobs, an unbelievable source of energy. He terminated Keystone, but he let Russia build the pipeline that I had terminated. So we are the party of common sense, and we're going to do. There's going to be tremendous growth.
So, I'm sorry.
Real quick, Mr. President. So you're in a room full of men, masculine men, They like to run their households, provide for their families.
They are all men. I can see everyone.
They're
Do I
concerned.
see it?
Some of the fellas are
Not really.
concerned about what's happening in the schools.
Yeah.
And they want a parent. They don't want all this nonsense being taught to their children.
You're not into transgender, right?
And
You don't want your boy going to school.
so what are you gonna do about it?
We're gonna end it. It ends immediately. And you're not gonna have men playing in women's sports if you have a daughter. I mean, it's so crazy.
Well, my daughter's a state, she's a state and national wrestler, champion.
But she doesn't want to wrestle a man, right?
Well, in New York, they have yet to segregate, in the high schools, they have yet to segregate male and female in wrestling. So
She's
she was
is she
wrestling
very
against
good?
boys.
She's very good.
She was good, she's in.
So let me ask you, how would you have done against an average man?
Who, her?
Your daughter, yeah.
She would have
wrestled
done
a man.
pretty, I've seen her pin young men in high school. So, and once again.
You don't want to break up with her.
No, I've seen her, even, she used to do mixed martial arts, so I've seen her
That's good.
get grown men
That's
to
good.
tap out.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I'm assuming that my initial question, I didn't properly ask it, so I can have a quick second to do so. When it comes to federal taxes,
Yeah.
I know we're gonna bring back, I'm sure you're gonna start back up the pipeline,
Right.
the Keystone Pipeline,
In 2
which is
weeks.
gonna generate an abundance of revenue.
Right.
Also, with the tariffs that you've spoken of,
Right.
that in itself is gonna bring a lot of money to the country.
100%.
Do you
By
believe
the way,
at
the
some
word
point?
tariff, don't listen to the fake news.
I don't.
The word, or Wall Street jerks, or the Wall Street Journal, because they don't get it. If you would have seen me yesterday with Bloomberg, you would have loved it. I don't know better than yourself, but you gotta see it. The word tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. It's gonna make our country rich again.
Yes.
When these guys come in and they sell, they undersell us, or we lose all our jobs, and they supply us, and we're paying them a fortune. And then they raise the price after everyone's gone, okay? It's the most beautiful word in the dictionary. It's gonna make this country wealthy again.
So, Mr.
And by the way,
President,
people aren't gonna pay. They like to say, oh, it's a tax. No, it's a tax on the country. It's not a tax. And we've had enough of letting other countries, even our so-called allies, sometimes our allies are worse than the enemies, but we've had enough of letting everybody rip us off as a country. We're not doing it anymore. So remember what I said, the word tariff, don't let anyone it's gonna make this country so rich again.
So I'm sorry, my
Go ahead.
question,
Go ahead.
I wasn't able to finish my question. So my question is, with all this extra revenue we're gonna be bringing into the country, I know priority is to bring down this debt we have as a country, as a
Or
whole.
grow the country.
And grow it. So do you believe at some point in time, we could find a way, once the country's back on its feet and getting enough revenue and paid off our debt, do you think it's possible to find a way to eliminate federal taxes for?
There is a way.
And how do you feel about it, and
the
what
old
steps would you
days,
take?
when we were smart, when we were a smart country, in the 1890s and all, this is when the country was relatively the richest it ever was. It had all tariffs, it didn't have an income tax.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Now we have income taxes, and we have people that are dying, they're paying tax, and they don't have the money to pay the tax. No, in the old days, 1890, 1880, we had so much money, they had to set up committees, blue ribbon committees, how to spend our wealth. We had no idea how to spend it, there was so much money. Then we went to the income tax system, and the rest is sort of history. But no, there is a way. I mean, if what I'm planning comes out, it's a great question, by the way.
Everyone could attain the
You're a
American
pretty
dream.
sophisticated cat, you know?
Everyone could attain the American dream if it wasn't for the high cost, the burden of high taxes, and we're taxed at every step of the way.
Yeah.
When we make it, when we
And
spend
regulations.
it.
And regulations. So
Absolutely.
I cut more regulations in 4 years than any other president by 4 times.
I know, sir.
And some of them were put back, they put them all back if they had the time. The key is, he was the worst president, she was the worst vice president in history. How about border czar? She was the border czar. Now she said she wasn't. She was in charge of the border. We had the safest border in history. I built 500 plus miles of wall. 500. That was great. I got Mexico to give us their troops free of charge, or I would have put tariffs on it all fairly, but free of charge. I
Rightfully
said,
so.
give it to us. They said, no. I said, all right, I'll put tariffs. Okay, we'll give you our soldiers, right? So anyway,
So, Mr.
you're gonna be happy.
You got a
Thank
real
you, sir.
estate guy, he's in the profession as you.
Oh, a
What's your
competitor.
question for the
You're a
president?
competitor of mine. That's good. Go ahead.
So my question is, since you are a real estate developer, you're obviously very familiar with real estate. I'm a real estate agent. I service the Bronx and Westchester County.
Great.
So obviously I deal with homes and properties every single day. My question is, what policy would you implement to, first off, lower these home prices, increase new construction homes
Yeah.
and lower interest rates for first-time home buyers and investors as well.
Well, we're gonna get the interest
Good
rates
question.
down. Yeah, it's great.
And
We're
that'll
gonna
be
get,
too.
you know, a big part of a home cost today is zoning and all the regulations and all the stuff you have to go through. It's like 30% the cost of its own, it's like paperwork. We're gonna get rid of a lot of that, but let me tell you a big problem, and a quick one, and just gonna, the biggest problem you have, I think, and if it's not now, it will be, they've allowed 21 million people to come into this country. And of those people, 425,000 of them are very severe criminals. 13,000, as I said, are murderers, drug dealers, gang members. You see what's happening to Venezuela gang members. They're taking over Aurora, Colorado. I mean, and you know where, I know exactly the area that you work in. I know that very well. It's lovely, but it's not going to be lovely when the migrants start going into that area. And I think it's the biggest problem. You know, we start with you. Everyone talks about inflation. I'm going to knock the hell out of inflation. But you know, what they're doing to our country, they're allowing absolute murderers, killers, gang members, drug lords. They're dropping them off and giving, you know, they're emptying their jails all over the world.
Yeah.
They're emptying their jails. Let's assume there are a lot of bad people. You know, they don't like to hear this, the press. They don't like to hear this. You got bad people. They're emptying their jails into our country. The jails in some countries are almost empty. And I'm talking about the Congo, which is a lot of people coming in from the Congo. They're coming from jails in the Congo. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from all over the place. And they're dumping them into, like, we're a dumping ground. It's the biggest problem we have. And I'll tell you what, economy and all of that is big stuff. It's number 2, number 3. The biggest problem we have is what's happening at our border. These stupid people we have running our country, and they're stupid. Biden's a stupid guy, and she's dumber than he is. She didn't even pass her bar exam. She failed her bar exam. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
She failed her bar exam. The stupid people that we have, they're letting our country, they're destroying our country. I mean, you walk out now and you see all the young girls that have been killed by these migrants.
Yeah.
Lake and Riley, so many people have been killed, and I get to meet the families so often. It's the most unpleasant thing I have to do. Those families are destroyed. Losing one of your children, it's like the worst. And they're being destroyed. The single biggest problem, and I know your area, and they're close to your area. You know, you go over to Madison Avenue, they're living on Madison Avenue, and I'm not blaming them, I'm blaming the leaders of our country. How about Springfield, Ohio? 50,000 people, no problems, very little crime, very little. They just dumped 50,000 people, 32,000 migrants from another country in Springfield, Ohio. They don't know what to do. And by the way, you get sick, you go to the hospital. You used to go to the hospital, they take care of you. Can't get a bed. You can't get into the hospital. Your kids can't get into the school. And the seats are being occupied by people that don't even speak English. Their number one thing is they want to get interpreters because the mayor's politically correct. The mayor's probably a nice guy. I think he's a Republican, actually, in that case. But he's a nice guy. He said, no, we want to try and take care. No. You have to get the people out. You got to go back to the way about they're destroying our country. And we're not going to let it happen. We're going to have the strongest borders. Well, look, I had the strongest border. We had the best border we've ever had. I knew it was trouble because I built over 500 miles. We're going to throw up another 200 miles. Would have been done in 3 weeks. And they didn't put it up. I said, why aren't they just throwing up the rest of the world? It was all built. They ended up selling it for 5 cents on the dollar, for steel, for scrap metal. And it was just what the Border Patrol wanted. It was steel, concrete, and rebar. That's what they wanted. That's what they want. It's the hardest to climb. And I'll tell you what, it's the biggest problem we have is our border. And everyone tells me, oh, sir, just, focus on the economy. I do more than anybody else. I focus on the economy. But that's easy. What they're doing to our country is unbelievable. We're being loaded up with criminals, murderers, and people from jails. The jails all over the world are being emptied out at levels that nobody, and they always say, oh, it's, how are they doing? All over the world, jails. And soon, there won't be anybody.
Education-wise for our kids in future.
How are you going to fix these failing schools?
First of all, school choice is great. We have to have school choice, where you have a choice for your child. You can't put your child in some of these schools that are so bad. and they'll peter out. But you know, one of the biggest things I get, everybody wants school choice, and we're gonna do school choice. We're also bringing education back to the states, because now I must tell you, in New York, you may not do as well as other places, but you go to Iowa and you go to some of these beautiful, Indiana, they have no debt, they have everything, it's a much different world. You will have 40 states that do a phenomenal job, and the same 10, you'll probably, you know, you have Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California, and he's done a lousy job. If you have bad management, if you have like bad governors and stuff, it's still better. But you'll have, so the #1 schools in the world are like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, believe it or not, China. Can you imagine China's a top 5? Can you believe it? With 1.4 billion people. But they have great school systems. You'll take these states that are like in Indiana, that's so well run. I'm going to move the school system back. We're getting them out of Washington, D.C. They're coming back to the states. They'll be able to do it for half the money or even less than that. And those states will be comparable to the best, to the Norways of the world. I mean, Norway's an amazing school system, but we have states that will be comparable to that. We're going to bring it back to the cities. We're going to bring it back to the states. It's good, but also choice is very important.
What about you, sir? How you doing, Mr. President?
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. First, I want to say I'm a registered Democrat. I voted for you the first time, voted for you the second time.
Thank you.
And I'm going to vote for you
Are
again.
you better?
There you go.
So,
I mean, the biggest thing we have now is that people have seen 4 years where we had the greatest economy in history, we had the safest border in history, we had the crime. Look at the crime, what's happening now in the cities. You can't even walk down the street. So now they really, the thing that's very big, no new wars. 84 years since that happened to a president. I didn't start any wars. Everyone thought I was going to start a war with everybody because of my personality. I started no new wars. When Hillary Clinton said, look at him, he's going to start wars, I said, no, I'm going to stop wars. And yet I fully defeated ISIS. I knocked out it, but that was a war that was started. We were playing games. We were there for 18 years fighting. I knocked them out in 4 weeks. They were gone. ISIS. So, it's a big deal.
so my question is this. I have multiple investments in Florida, real estate investments, and also in New York. I know it's always said we're going to bring taxes down, we're going to bring taxes down. I have a lot of friends that are in my same position. How will you bring taxes down?
So let me ask you, in Florida, you're in much better shape than New York? Real estate-wise?
Well, honestly, it balances out because over there the rents are much higher,
Right.
but the taxes are much higher.
Right.
Like I struggled for everything that I have. I have no mortgages or anything. I still struggle to keep what I have.
So with no mortgage, you fight the taxes very hard?
Yeah, you fight them, but nothing really changes with that. Taxes continue to go up, and sometimes you feel like you're in a losing battle
I know.
because it's just tax after tax.
I know this place even better than you.
I'm sure you do.
I know this place with the taxes and tax certiorari. All I can do is give you a great economy, and you're going to have to get your rents up. The city, if you had great leadership in this city, a lot of things can be done. A lot of things can be done. It's so sad to see. When I left for Washington, we had a guy named de Blasio. He was probably the worst mayor in history. He was so terrible. He was so terrible. But the Democrats went after Adams because, he said, rightfully, I can't live like this. You got 100,000 migrants in here. You can't run the city, so they indicted him. In my opinion, that had a lot to do with it. Democrats, and they did it with others too, because it's almost like a communist state. We got to win this thing. We got to get that garbage out of our government because this is no way to run. But the big thing I'm going to do is make the economy great, and that's going to make you get higher rents, et cetera, et cetera. Ideally, you want to get your taxes down. You just fight your taxes. But the cities, it's a hard fight. I understand that. We'll get your economy going.
Yeah.
So, Mr. President, I have a 5-year-old son that's in public schools right now. I have a lot of people asking me questions as far as the failing school systems that we have here in the Bronx. What are we
They're
going to do?
failing.
What are we going to do to improve that in our school systems?
Well, we're moving them back from Washington, where you have people that don't care about New York, frankly. In Washington, I don't know if you ever noticed this, you got Department of Education, Department of Education. You got half the buildings at Department of Education. I never saw. You don't need any of them. You know, I want one person and a secretary to just make sure they're teaching English, okay? Give her a little English, okay? I say reading, writing, and arithmetic. No transgender, no operations. You know, they take your kid. There are some places. Your boy leaves for school, comes back, a girl.
Sure.
Okay? Without parental consent.
Mm-hmm.
What is that all about? That's when they talk about a threat to democracy, they're a threat. Could you imagine without parental consent? At first, when I was told that was actually happening, I said, you know, it's an exaggeration. No, it happens. It happens. There are areas where it happens. We're not going to let it happen. But we are going to straighten out a lot. What we're going to really do, though, is give you a lot of jobs and a great economy, and you're going to be able to straighten yourselves out. But a lot of education so important. We're going to move it back to the states. Now, New York is not like some other states. You know, some states run like clockwork. They really do. I mentioned a few, but Idaho, the home of the Idaho potato. No debt, everything perfect, schools are wonderful. They'd love to run their own education. They'll do better. They don't need somebody in Washington telling them how to take care of their kids, what their kids should be learning. It's such a great thing. It'll cost us half, and we'll get a much better school system. New York is more of a problem because, you know, you don't rely on politicians. I mean, these politicians I know them all, and it's a little bit different. But it will still be better than coming out of Washington. And the other thing you have to get involved is the parents. You know, today the FBI arrests parents over school boards. You ever see that? They arrest the parents. The parents go to a school board meeting, they end up in jail. It's like nobody's ever seen anything like it. We want parental
rights.
Parental control.
Mm-hmm.
And in New York you can do well with that too. But we want parental control.
I think we got time for one more,
Okay.
Mr. President. Go ahead.
Mr. President, are there things that
Is he a good barber too?
Yeah,
Who's better, you or him as a barber? How long have you worked here?
11 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Could he give me a good haircut?
You gonna do it?
I mean, that's anything.
That's the master right there.
Who's the master? Is he the best?
Right there.
I'm the teacher, oldest guy.
35 years. I've been coming in 35
He
years.
looks like a young guy.
Yeah.
I've been coming to him since
Good job, did a good job with your
1994.
boy, I tell you, right?
Yeah.
You did a good job with your son, huh?
He's a great kid.
He's doing
Love
good.
him. Proud of
And
him.
you have other kids too?
Yeah, I got four altogether. 2 girls and 2
All
boys.
good, I'll bet all good.
All doing great.
I can look at him and see that you all
I'm
turned
happy.
out.
I'm at peace.
Do they work here too at all?
No. One works with him.
Two,
in his
two,
restaurant.
two that works with me.
Oh,
Restaurant.
good. What do you do?
I'm a real estate investor and I own a restaurant and a bar.
Good. You look great. What's your,
I'm here next to the president, I gotta look great.
What's your question for the president?
Huh? My question is in housing with the taxes
Yeah.
and the insurance. Insurance is astronomical.
Out of control.
Out of control for your property, rental properties and stuff. I started.
It went up in the last few years.
I bought a property in 2008 in Castle Hill.
Right.
My insurance was $1,400. I just renewed it for $60,000.
Do you ever self-insure?
Huh?
If you don't have mortgages, you can self-insure. I would.
No, I have a small mortgage. In 5 years, I'm finished.
You know, as soon as you get rid of the mortgage, you don't have to pay the insurance because I think self-insuring in some cases is better. And the worst thing is, you pay all that money, okay, you pay all that money, and then you have a claim and they don't want to give you the money.
Oh yes, and then they want to drop you.
And then they say, let's drop them.
And the worst part is.
I mean, I love self-insurance.
And then the court system here.
Yeah.
You have an issue with a
Tell
tenant.
me about the court system.
Yeah, listen.
Tell
Forget
me.
it. You know,
Mr. President,
it takes them 2 years
The court
to answer
system,
you.
well, that's the least of it is the time. It's
Yeah.
like, the court system here has to be straightened out.
We gotta revamp that.
Companies are leaving. Look at what they did to me.
It's
I
a crime.
did nothing wrong. I had a loan. I paid off the loan in full. I paid it off early. And Letitia James went after me for a loan I didn't even want. The bank said, we'd like to loan you some money because it was new. So the bank testified. It was the best loan. We got our money back. He paid us back early. Got all of our interest. I got indicted over it. Can you believe it?
No.
And you know, people are watching this from all over the world that they say, you gotta be kidding. And the loan was like $125 million. And the judges at Trump paid it. And I won the case 100%. Everyone said it's a nonsense case. All of the big people said, the big lawyers, the legal minds, you know, the Jonathan Turlers, all of these guys, the great guys, Andy McCarthy said, there's no case here, there's no case. The judge billed me like $500 million. He said, companies watch this case, they'll never come in. They'll never come in. You said Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida is worth $18 million. But it's appraised, I guess, for $1.5 million or something, because they had to judge the case. Judges, very important. You said something that you just said, it's sort of, if we don't straighten out the court system in New York, every business is gonna leave. They're in jeopardy. So, very good,
Mr.
thank you.
President, your team is gonna kill me. This is the
I
last
know this,
one.
you know where I'm going now? The Wall Street Journal, and you know more about business than they do, because they don't like tariffs, they have no idea. Let's go, you would ask one question.
What is one thing that you probably feel like you didn't do in your first term that you feel like you could do better now?
I'll tell you the one thing, because I did, you know, we had the best economy with the best border, we had a lot of, so I did a lot of good stuff, rebuilt the military. It's all about people. I gotta get the right people. You know, when I went there, I won. 92% of the presidents, 92% for the whole history of our country were politicians. 8% were generals. No admirals, 8% were, that's it. That's 100%. 92 and 8. They were politicians and they were generals. General Washington, you know, et cetera, et cetera. George Washington. Thank you. You're doing very good.
I got longer arms than you.
I do have longer arms. So here's what we do. We take all of that and we come, and here comes Donald Trump down the line. And so it's about people. It's all about people. I went to Washington 17 times in my entire life. So I wasn't a Washington person. I was a New York person. I mean, I was here as a developer. I was competing against him, but I was a developer in New York. And I did great. It was a great place. I loved it. We did condos. You know, it was just great. I did a lot. I mean, as much as anybody. And I loved it, but I wasn't from Washington. So when I went to Washington, all of a sudden I'm standing in the White House opposite the Lincoln bedroom. And I said, man, this is so amazing, but I didn't really know too many. So I had to rely on people to give me recommendations for people, to run agencies, to be secretary of this, secretary of that, all big stuff. And I didn't know anybody, I had to rely. And I still did great. Look, we rebuilt the military, we knocked out ISIS, we did all these things, we did great. We had the best economy, we had the best everything. Everything was good, but I had some people that if I had it to do again, I wouldn't have used. Now, I've been there 4 years, plus another 4 that I'm sort of there in a way. I know the best people. To me, it's all about people. You gotta have the right people. When we have the right people, it runs beautiful. It's like a building.
Yep.
You put a right super in. You put a super in a building that's good, it runs. I used to take a good super and have a great building, he was great. I'd move him into another building that wasn't as good. He'd fix that building, but then I'd have a problem with the building. So I said, it doesn't make sense. You gotta get the right people, and I have great people. We have the best people lined up. We're gonna do a great job. Listen, so I'm going down to see the Wall Street Journal. If I had my choice, I'd stay with you for 2-3 hours, because you guys are great. You guys are the same as me, it's the same stuff. We were born the same way.
Yep.
I grew up in Queens and all of that. I mean, you know, it's, I had a great father. I had a father who was a great guy. He was tough but good, big heart, big heart. And he was a construction guy, pretty much, and a real estate guy. And I learned a lot from him. He was great. But I know you people so well without knowing you. I know you so well. When I walked in here, I said, this is home territory. And I really appreciate it. You are fantastic. I bet he's a fantastic father. Take care of that guy, right?
Mr. President, I think we could say here collectively, I met all these guys today for the first time, but we all love America just like you.
Amen.
And that's why we're here.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Really
President.
nice, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Excuse me,
Thank
Mr.
you very
President,
much.
are you gonna stop the war?
Yeah, I'll get that war stopped. The war, well, we got a lot of wars. We had no wars with me.
Correct.
You know, a lot of the people, a lot of the Europeans, they say, you gotta bring Trump back. A lot of the European nations, the heads, the top guys, you gotta bring, even though he was killing us because I was charging them a lot of money, they say it's still better. We had no wars. No. I mean, think of it. The head of Hungary, Orban, very respected guy. He said, the only way we're gonna solve the world problem, you gotta bring Trump back. Everybody was afraid of Trump. I don't wanna be the ones. He said it. He said, China was afraid of him, President Xi, Putin was, everybody was afraid of Trump. We had no wars. Ukraine would have never happened. Putin would have never attacked. Israel would have never happened, October 7th. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get the Ukraine war done before I even take
We already
it. If
got
I'm
war
president-elect, that Ukraine war is a horrible, horrible situation. It should have never happened. We have an incompetent president, he let it happen. If we had a president that knew anything, it should have never happened. It's a shame. All those people that dead, the place is blown to pieces. It's been an honor being with you fellas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll tell you, this guy's gonna get a raise. He got a lot out of me today.
Let's take America back.
Thank you, man. Looking good.
This is going in my.
Oh, you got it. Look at this. Oh, that's a good artist. You know what I like? When they do it, if you have a good, that guy's good, right?
I can't afford them any longer.
But you love it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I gotta go.
No, now we gotta finish it up.
Trump, real quick, you've been in the Bronx several times.
Right. I came here for a rally.
Absolutely. Now, my question to you is, how would you help make the Bronx better?
Keep it going the way it's going, and let me bring back the economy. When I bring back the economy, it's gonna be good. Oh, look at
You don't want to know the date on that.
Look at I love this guy. What a setup, that whole thing.
Look at the hat.
You know what? And they're all friendly guys.
Well, I was there with them.
All good. Thank you, man. We're fighting to get. I'm gonna get them out fast.
I hope
It's a
so.
disgrace. What took place there? What took place, the way they were handled.
And the media's full of you know what.
And then every place else, like what they did in Minnesota, burned down the place, nothing happened.
It's there's no words for it. Thank you very much.
They're gonna kill me. Yeah.
Can you sign this out?
I will do it. I gotta go though, because honestly, this is gonna be a little 10-minute stop. Lawrence, you're gonna get a lot of money for this interview. Go ahead, take a couple of pictures. Go ahead, fellas. Go ahead. You know, that is pretty.